chapter 97 was overall a terrific chapter. I say that all the time, of course, but a lot of things are kind of playing in an interesting way. A lot of perspectives going on, a lot of action going on, a lot of reveals. This time, it starts off really nicely. We get a good chapter cover of Jobin. We get to see Speed King. He's actually a really cool stand design, not gonna lie. A lot of Jojolion stands, in my opinion, look really nice. We start off the chapter with Jobin attacking the head doctor stand and receiving a blow back. And to be honest, this is depicted the most gruesome way possible. Araki's really been drawing a lot of. It's just a complete bloodbath. Jobin is getting attacked by the Calamity in such a grotesque way. Really interesting to see how this is all drawn. I just love Araki's artwork, and it's just evolving as we go. I think this is kind of comparable, like this bloodbath sort of thing. This is comparable to later in part 7 when the whole thing, who shot Johnny. I mean, that's what it reminds me of. I don't know, just the art. But anyway, aside from that, we finally get the reveal of a little bit more of what's going on with the head doctor's stand, and it's revealed that really behind the scenes, Tooru seems to be controlling all this. Not too much of a surprise. Tooru is probably public enemy number 1 of suspicion, to be not the main villain at least, but certainly an antagonist. He's overall suspicious. He's not surprised by a lot of things that are going on at the Hishigata household when informed by Yasuo, and he has an extremely close connection to the head doctor. To me, that wasn't too much of a surprise, and the way the story and the panels were going on, they made it seem like this was going to be some crazy big reveal. It was a nice reveal, don't get me wrong, but Rocky kind of drew him in shadows, covering up his face as if it's like, oh no, who's it going to be? But from the moment we saw, or at least I saw his silhouette, it was kind of obvious that, yeah, this is Tohru, and he's fucking up shit. Jobin is in a terrible state. Some people think that he's dead. Honestly, it's a possibility, but within Jojolion at least, I think Narusuke's still alive, right? So if Narusuke could survive something like that, and Yasuo can survive, I guess, drowning in a toilet with the cell phone, a lot of characters have been, and even in JoJo in general, I feel like a lot of characters within the series, they get hurt a lot. On face value, it looks like any average person would die to an attack like that, but I think within this series, within Jobin's case, there is a possibility to where he could survive. And to be honest, I think Jobin is a little bit too integral to the plot. And if he were to be taken out now, it would just feel really anticlimactic. So I've read that some people think he's dead. I personally don't. I think there's just a little bit more that needs to be put into consideration until we can confirm that he could be dead. Also, something to mention is that Tohru is, meanwhile, all this fiasco is going on, he's listening to some music, and the song is a nice little musical reference to Elvis Presley. It's kind of weird because maybe that could foreshadow something. I don't know, Rocky kind of likes to do that with a lot of these musical references. Just something to note. Nevertheless, finally, for the longest time, we finally get to see what was inside the package the whole time that Josuke sent a few chapters ago and where it was being sent. And ironically enough, it was being sent to the lecture hall within the hospital, which I guess does make sense because this is the whereabouts of where Josuke knows he is. So again, adds up. And inside is a little bit anticlimactic. I thought there was going to be something a little bit more like an aha moment where okay, now this makes sense. But it really wasn't anything too groundbreaking that was inside the package. All there was a jar of a portion, a slice of the Rakakaka, and then a video evidence of the lab where these are being cultivated, and Holly under the influence of the fruit's effects. And this is actually in the hands of a reporter, trying to get the latest scoop. And he confronts the head doctor about this. And I guess this is sort of made, the intention behind this was to scare the head doctor, to quote-unquote expose him. is it me, but is it a little bit weird to see the head doctor actually get some real dialogue slash conversation in? Because, or like, I think this is the only time, other than that totally propaganda lecture earlier, I think this is the only time he gets like a real, like, we actually get to hear him talk, which is turns out to be really interesting because he's kind of that sort of character to where very quiet, very cynical, he's always one step ahead, that sort of thing. So very interesting. But either way, the news reporter, it's revealed that like he gets the Rokakaka juice underneath his nails, and then he scratches his face, and then his acne is cured, which again was alluded earlier, so that is some nice foreshadowing. And then a rock formation kind of occurs near the back of his neck, and then his entire neck just completely snaps in half, which is, I mean, I love the imagery. It's just very, very brutal. I just, it's super cool to see that go down. It's like, it's dark imagery. I like it. His neck is just dangling, his head is dangling off his body. But either way, that really doesn't matter because the head doctor is off to pursue Josuke, and like I said, his plan finally worked. And then we get to see a little bit of Mamazuku, which is always great. And he's also going to Josuke, and he can kind of infer that the head doctor. It's because now the roles have completely changed. Instead of them pursuing the head doctor, Mamazuku and the head doctor are pursuing Josuke. So the tables have completely turned, which, I mean, I just like. It's just really cool. It plays out to be very ironic. And then the last panel, which is very interesting, we get a little bit of a hint of some other extra knowledge. Tohru basically states that he knows that the head doctor is pursuing Josuke instead. So a lot of people have a lot of speculation on what this can mean. Facts, right? Tohru knows for sure of what's going on completely at the hospital. So does he have like a way to communicate with the head doctor? I mean, I thought maybe through like cell phone. Is he the head doctor? Is the head doctor the stand? Because at the same time, there's all this Mad Lad fiasco going on at the Hishigata household with Jobin. Does he have a completely different stand at the household? The thing is, the head doctor at the hospital is like a real person. You know, we got to see him talk, and he's been interacting with a few other characters, so that really wouldn't count as a stand. It's really confusing, but how does he have that level of communication that he knows what's going on? Another thing that I kind of want to get through is I've read, because, you know, I read the manga online, the fan translation, and, you know, I read the comments down below, you know, people's thoughts and opinions, and it's all great, of course, but I noticed a few people saying that they believe Tohru is going to become the main antagonist, which I think is just ridiculously silly. Like, I mean, there's a few problems with that. One, I personally feel like they would never throw in a character so late into the game to just suddenly become the main villain. Also, in addition, I feel like Tohru is just, not only is he not like a major character, I feel like he doesn't have, the only character he has a connection to is really Yasua. And even then, a very loose connection somewhat. I mean, I feel like, and also Jobin has kind of held that torch of being somewhat of the main villain, which I don't think that's why he's gonna die. He kind of has to be that main torch to kind of create some sort of antagonist. Maybe something interesting can spring up from this, considering that perhaps at the end, Jobin and Josuke and the rest of everybody else can team up together to take on the greater threat, quote unquote, the big enemy. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, that kind of thing. But I really don't know if that'll be the case because, like I said, Tohru just doesn't feel main villain type material. He definitely feels like a minor antagonist, someone who will assist in to assist in creating a bigger conflict. But again, I always say this, and I don't feel like I'm alone. I think the main villain is going to be Jobin's mother, Kata, because she's, like I said, she kind of checks off a few lists. One, she is introduced somewhat semi earlier, much earlier than Toru's case, and she would be in somewhat of a position to kind of be the big dog, the head boss of all these things going down. It would add up. She, like I said, she has a connection with the family. Being Jobin's mother, being Narusuke's wife, there is a good, solid connection, and it would seem plausible for her to be holding the strings at the end of the day. And just another thing to note, just to add on, it really wouldn't make sense for Araki to introduce a character in such a way as he did for her and not do anything with that. Like, the potential is there, and he definitely has something planned. I just don't know at this point to where it would feel natural to just suddenly insert the character and let him mesh with all the other characters in this current situation that's going on. Because currently she's like AFK off screen. We've not seen this person in like quite a while. So I don't know how that's going to play out. I mean, I think she would be the main villain. Like I said, it would add up, but I just don't know how it's going to integrate for that to be the case. Alright, I think I'm kind of rambling for a little bit too long. Though I want to make some quick predictions for the next chapter next month. Okay, obviously they're leaving us on like a really big cliffhanger. Mamazuka and the head doctor are bursting into the hospital to get the Josuke. Is there like what can happen? Because okay, the head doctor himself, right? Like, if he pursues somebody, could he still use his stand in an offensive way, right? Like, the stand itself, the effects of calamity, it seems to be very defensive. It doesn't seem to be used in a very offensive manner. So if he's going directly to Josuke, is that like the ultimate flaw in his quote-unquote stand? How will Mamazuka play into that is also going to be interesting. And even then, like, what would he discuss or do to Josuke? I guess the next logical conclusion would be to kill him, but what motive? Like, because for all I know, is the head doctor has never even met Josuke. I don't think so. It's weird because I feel like in this case, the head doctor wouldn't also be a good villain. Because I feel like there hasn't been this bond between the main character and the villain, which I guess doesn't always have to be the case, but like, if we go back to a lot of other parts, part 6, Jolene and Pucci, they kind of knew each other earlier on, and midway through the story would intersect and, meet up. There was this sort of history, part 1, Jonathan, part 2, Joseph and the Pillarman. Everything was kind of set up in that. Part 3, well, Dio in that case, but part 7, I like to, I think that's a better comparison because it's a lot of Araki's later works and it takes place in the same universe. Funny Valentine would occasionally meet up, or at least just, there was this history with the main characters and the villain, but that's not really present here, and I wonder how that's all gonna work, because I can't imagine what could go down. And even then, like, let's say that there's a stand fight, Josuke wins, what would give him the hint to go to the Hishigata household at that point? I guess that's where he would naturally return to, but I don't necessarily know his plan afterwards. And I guess I'm looking a little bit too far ahead, but either way, like, I gotta say, this chapter really kept me on my toes, if that makes sense. Like, of course, all the chapters are naturally exciting. Araki's a really great writer. He's been writing for super, super duper long. But, like, a lot of reveals after one another, and a lot of foreshadowings after one another. And, I love the bloodshed going on into the chapter. Just a lot of, like, the ball was totally dropped, Tohru being revealed as the main villain. Even though I think I said this in my last video, even though I predicted that was going to be the case, and I felt like it was pretty obvious, it's still very nice to see that reveal happen, and getting the whole package reveal was super duper nice, and that all happened back to back to back. And like I said, including Jobin's bloodshed, that was awesome to see go down. The dynamics are changing so much, and he left, and I kept saying to myself as I was reading, I'm like, okay, he's gonna end it here, you know, after, you know, after the head doctor, you know, kills, or it doesn't really kill. Well, I guess the Rokakaka did that, but after the head doctor leaves and then the news reporter dies, I thought he was gonna end it there, but no, we get off a very nice cliffhanger, just giving us enough information to where Tohru, where this idea of Tohru being linked up with the head doctor is solidified, and you know, Mamazuku and the head doctor going after Josuke. It just builds really nice hype for chapter 98. Like, there's so much potential, and it has to take place because Josuke, he was in this chapter, but he really wasn't. And I'm hoping in the next chapter that this is going to be through his perspective, because it's been a while since we've had a chapter through his eyes. Because I think the last time was, God, I think it may have been the first time I did the first video of the series I did. So I think it was chapter 92. So it would be 6 chapters later. But either way, I think I've been going on for quite a while. Now, I think I've gone a little bit off topic in some areas, but overall, just great chapter. And if you guys have any theories or anything I may have missed, or just thoughts and opinions, all that stuff, just throw them down below. I'd really like to hear them. I always like to see how everybody else looks at the chapter and what kind of ideas other people come up with, because honestly, there's new stuff to be discovered in these stories every single time. So I'd really like to hear your thoughts and opinions. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.